Hello again. I hope you haven't been put off by the terminology in the readings that you just went through, the terms logos, ethos, and pathos. Of course, the words sound funny to us because they're Greek. Again, they were coined by Aristotle over 2,000 years ago. And what's fascinating is that they are still useful in terms of thinking about how to understand an argument even today. In fact, in a moment, I'm going to show you how even a letter that my daughter sent to Santa Claus some years ago includes all of those elements of the different rhetorical appeals. Quickly though, just as a reminder, of course, the content in Canvas is designed for you to click through it sequentially, right? So the idea was that you've read these readings about rhetoric and the rhetorical appeals, and they're pretty short readings, right? And then you watch my video, and then the instructions for the rhetorical analysis paper make a lot more sense, right? So again, you want to get comfortable with that module view and clicking the next button so that you can move through the content sequentially. If you are using the to-do list only, you're going to be missing out on a lot of content, and it's probably going to lead to failing papers, and we certainly don't want that. So let's get into the Prezi. Briefly, of course, just like the last one, because the link will be available to you to look at, on your own as much or as little as you like, right? So again, rhetorical analysis is about understanding the art of persuasion, and indeed, persuasion is an art form, right? This is why advertisements during the Super Bowl cost so much money. This is why there are millions of dollars poured into political campaigns, right? Because using the right words can potentially change someone's mind about something. And indeed, we have to talk about words and images, right? Because you're going to be looking at both when you analyze your political cartoon. Okay, so appeals to kairos. This just has to do with, is the person who's creating the argument, are they doing it at the right time? So really, both of the political cartoons that will be there for you to choose from, both of them are attentive to kairos because they were both created while the lead water crisis was still ongoing in Flint. Of course, no one is making cartoons about that now in 2020 because purportedly the crisis has been solved and the water is finally safe to drink. But that's what kairos means. It's the Greek god for time, of time, pardon me. But let's talk about logos, ethos, and pathos. They're more important as you delve into the paper, right? Logos has to do with persuading readers through facts and reasoning. You can think about this as evidence. Down the road, we're going to look at opinionated articles. We're going to look at academic journal articles. We're going to talk about data. We're going to talk about evidence. Those are all appeals to logos. And of course, that's much more important for academic readers than anything else. However, political cartoons are for lots of different readers, right? And so they use appeals besides just appeals to logos. But political cartoons, even though they rely more heavily on emotion-based appeals to pathos, they do, of course, have to include some facts to help you understand the event that they're referencing. But yes, political cartoons and indeed television advertisements, many rhetorical texts that involve images are heavy on appeals to pathos. Okay? If you have watched a commercial that made you feel a certain way and used that against you, right? Think about the Humane Society commercials that show the pitiful little animal that make you want to give them money, right? The amount of money they want you to give, that's the fact. That's the appeals to logos. The pitiful puppy dog, that's the tragedy that motivates you. That's the appeal to pathos. You can probably hear my little dog barking in the background, actually. That's funny. Okay. What does that leave? Ethos. This is the speaker's credibility, right? When you think about it, if the person who is trying to convince you to do something, if you don't trust them, it doesn't matter how good their facts are. It doesn't matter how much they pull at your heartstrings. right? So with a political cartoon, the ethos is basically just the artist's ability to craft a scene that's engaging enough for you to look at, right? But down the road, when we talk about source credibility and we look at things to evaluate whether a source is trustworthy, again, we're evaluating the source's ethos. So that's an important concept. Okay, so let's look at how all this comes together in a letter that my daughter wrote to Santa Claus about 3 years ago. Now, of course, I did not instruct her on how to use the rhetorical appeals. That would be obnoxious. My point to you is that many of us invoke these approaches intuitively because we learn how to get what we want from talking with others and watching others around us, right? And so, indeed, you can see, I'm sure you've had time to read it, right, that she appeals to ethos here when she shows Santa that she understands how a letter works, right? Letters have a beginning and an ending. They have an opening, dear, right, and then a closing. You'll also notice it's all spelled properly, and she tried to write neatly. That's probably an appeal to ethos as well, right? She's trying to build her credibility with him, show him that she spent some time on it so that she can get what she wants. Appeals to logos. Well, she has to let him know what exactly she wants, or, it's not going to work out, right? And then she's letting him know when she would like to have it, perhaps a day early. Usually we let the kids have a present a day early at our house. I don't know if y'all do that. And of course, there's this fact in here where mom is willing to pay shipping on the gift so the reindeer can rest, right? Which, of course, is an emotional, I don't want to say it's an emotional ploy, but it is an appeal to pathos, right? To show that she's concerned about the reindeer. The nice shows that she's appreciative of the gift. Again, it's designed to make Santa feel a certain way, to feel good about responding to the request, to feel like she's not a naughty kid, right? So again, this is a very short note, and all this is sort of coming through unconsciously here, but my point to you is that it demonstrates all of these rhetorical appeals. They're useful tools for understanding rhetoric, and you will need to use those words and use that terminology in the rhetorical analysis paper. Part of it is explaining what's going on in the cartoon, what the artist's argument is, but part of it as well is explaining how the rhetorical appeals are utilized, right? And so here's an example. This is not one of the cartoons you've been given to choose from, right? But as you can see here, there are some appeals to logos. There are facts that let us know what city is affected, who, according to the artist here, is to blame for the problem, right? There are appeals to pathos. Again, when you're looking at your own cartoon, you choose things that make you feel angry, grossed out, sad. These are appeals to pathos. And so when you see this poor man who appears to have drowned here, it could be designed to make you angry. Perhaps you think it's designed to make you disgusted. When you're writing the paper, of course, you have to delve into why. Why does it benefit the author's argument to make you feel that way? Now, of course, we could discuss this for 20 minutes, right? If I wanted to make a really long video, right? Or I had you here with me. I mean, look, there's a lot of different ways to interpret that. Is the brown water the dirty water in Flint? Is it urine from the elephant? Right? This is one of the fun things about allowing you to analyze your own cartoon is that there is some room for interpretation as long as you can explain why you see things that way, why you think they mean that in a way that is convincing and academically sound, right? So, of course, the appeals to ethos here, the artist has signed his name. He's crafted a scene that we can understand and that is engaging. Interesting thing about ethos, remember, it has to do with credibility, seeing the author or artist as fair. You could argue that, depicting Snyder as an elephant here sort of attacks the entire Republican Party for what he's done, and some might not see that as fair. And then that might hurt the artist ethos with those particular readers, right? Again, that's how analysis works. It's open to you. You're using your own critical thinking abilities here. I'm not looking for right and wrong answers in the paper. What I'm looking for is sound critical thinking and a demonstration that you understand and have applied the concepts in the reading. That's about all I've got. I hope you found this helpful and that you enjoyed the letter to Santa. Remember, if you have questions, you can email me or you can jump into my open office hours, which I'll be offering every week. All right, and we can have a discussion in there. But definitely stay in touch, and I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts about the cartoon you chose when you complete the discussion board assignment. Keep clicking next to see what that looks like.